let's talk about this cult equation. How does this stuff work out? What are the connections? Like, what are the mechanics, the pieces that make these things so addictive and make people want to keep coming? Because as soon as I went, I was like, man, like, I really enjoyed that. What's up, guys? GR here at My Friend Says You Grow Gyms. You are in the right place if you're a gym owner, personal trainer, box owner that is looking to grow your business, grow your gym in ways that you, your team, the people you serve, your community, your family, not least importantly, your bank account are going to feel absolutely awesome about. Today, we're going to talk about something that I'm super excited to share. It's a little bit different. It's more conceptual. So I absolutely love digging into different business models, different sort of phenomena out in the world, and seeing kind of what makes them tick, what makes them different, what can I learn from that thing to make whatever I do better, right? To make the things that I'm involved with better. So recently, I literally I need to go shower, but I'm so excited to talk about this because I've been thinking about it quite a bit. So I recently joined a jiu-jitsu gym on the recommendation of many people, clients that swear by it. If you're into entrepreneur at all, right? Jocko Willink is always, hustle, grind, like all these things. But Jocko's always talking about how, if you're going to do one thing, like you're going to learn one sort of form of self-defense or martial arts or whatever, like do jiu-jitsu. So a jiu-jitsu gym finally moved in like relatively in town for me, close to the boonies. You can see this is my, if you're watching this, like that's my front yard. Like you can't see really anybody else. Deer out there all the time and stuff like that. So we're kind of in the boonies, but a jiu-jitsu gym moved about. BJJ, can I say that? Gracie Barra moved in. Baja, I guess if that's the correct pronunciation. That the kid who signed me up. That's what the kid who signed me up told me anyway. Moved in about 15 minutes away. I've never done any sort of martial arts. I'm in okay shape. Like I'm used to be athletic, but like never any sort of martial arts. So this is completely foreign to me, completely new to me. And honestly, so here's the thing. I was a little nervous starting off. Like pretty damn nervous. Like, what's it going to be? What kind of people are there? It's just going to be a bunch of douchebags trying to be the next UFC champ, and they're just going to try to break me. What's the scenario going to be? And so I went in spite of those concerns, and I ended up joining. So I'm really enjoying it. I'm doing it twice a week, right? It's an hour where I don't have to to worry, like all I'm worried about is surviving and not getting crushed by people that are 100 pounds lighter than me, like it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of focus. But what's interesting is anytime I get into like a hobby or something like that, I kind of dive all in a little bit. So like, I want to go, I want to learn about it. I'm going to watch videos. I'm going to dig into like subreddits and stuff. And so I started searching, Reddit for seeing what they said about Gracie Barra gyms, because they are a very large chain. I don't know if they're a franchise or not, but they're a very large chain. Have locations literally all over the world. The particular woman who owns this location has 2 locations in our city, so it's like not a small operation. It's a very big phenomena right now. Jiu-jitsu is just a big thing, and they have their chains and they have their your solo operators. It's very similar to the fitness world in that way. What was interesting is I kept on seeing like cult pop up. Oh, you joined a cult of a gym and all these different things. Which, by the way, I think we'd all probably, like, if we may not want to admit it, but I would love it if my gym was constantly sort of operated like a cult, without like the shared like really awful things. But I would love to have my business accused of being a cult. We have in the past, but just super consistently would be awesome. And so it made me think, so like, what's the first thing that pops into your head when you think about cult in the fitness industry? Some of you may have thought like SoulCycle. I know that was a thing for a while there, but I think about CrossFit. So when I was coming up, it was absolutely CrossFit. CrossFit was the thing. Oh, it's a cult, and so on and so forth. And so it got me thinking, like, man, what's the connection there? So what is it that makes that makes those things so addictive, right? That makes it such that, you're not just going, because it's not just working out, because you can kick your ass doing anything, and that doesn't necessarily make it addictive. I can kick my ass on my own, and that doesn't necessarily make it addictive. So what is it that makes these things that are, typically group type experiences, so cultish? Because it's not just doing it in a group. Because you can go to a group, like no one's accusing body pump classes at the Y as being a cult, right? They're not that good, right? They don't, like, it's a compliment. So what is it? What's the connection that makes things cultish? And I'm going to try to show you some of what I've whiteboarded out here. You can actually see a sneak peek on everything that we're doing with our new, basically kind of like a bolt-on online training launch to our gym owners. If you want to learn more about that, head over to gymownerloveletter.com and schedule a super duper high pressure get to know you call. But let's talk about this cult equation. So how does this stuff work out? What are the connections? Like, what are the mechanics, the pieces that make these things so addictive and make people want to keep coming? Because as soon as I went, I was like, man, like, I really enjoyed that, right? Like, I didn't think about stress or work or issues during that entire hour. I was just focused on surviving. It was very welcoming. Like, I immediately, wanted to go back. And so what is it that makes that the case? And so I think, like, I'm a nerd on trying to come up with equations and stuff. I think I might have came up with something. So the first piece, we'll block this out. The first piece is this shared, I think it's shared suffering. So what does, if CrossFit is the most effective cult of the fitness industry, like the gym industry for the past, 10, 15 years, whatever it is, and jiu-jitsu might be, I don't know if it is or not, but it seems like it's the most successful, like, martial artsy cult, right? You have locations that are accused of being cultish. What is it that makes that so effective? Because in order for it to be a cult, there have to be people there. And I think this sort of cult factor of what you do is probably the biggest determining thing in whether or not you grow organically, or you grow organically at a pace that is sort of rapid enough for you to almost rely on that and have to do very little external, like, marketing to cold traffic. So I think the big piece there, the biggest common thread that we see, is the idea of shared suffering. So, in CrossFit, like, nobody really wins. You've got the person that has the best time or the best score, but nobody really wins. The workout wins. Everyone's suffering. Everyone's getting their ass kicked. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. There's always, like, unless you're the freaking professor or whatever they call it, you're getting your ass kicked, right? Every session. If you're not getting your ass kicked, you're still having to work your ass off. So there's this shared exhilaration, shared suffering. It's kind of letting it all hang out. So you kind of have to, like, you're not literally getting naked, but you are kind of getting naked, right? It's a vulnerable experience to basically completely gas yourself at a new thing, right? It's something that you're not super comfortable with the first time you go do it. So the first time somebody goes into a CrossFit class and they haven't worked out in years, right? That is a very uncomfortable thing. The same thing, like, going into to a jiu-jitsu gym is not inherently something that, like, if I tell my mom to go do that, she's not gonna be, oh yeah, screw yeah, like, that sounds, no, there's gonna be some discomfort, and there's, like, it's not something that just everybody does. It's not something that everyone just gravitates to. So we have to, that's sort of the next piece of the equation, is yes, we can have this kind of letting it all hang out, but in order to do that, it has to be a kind of a safe space. So the way I've laid this out is that my thought is that this comfort, the level of comfort that we have to have in order to make this thing work is binary. So, or the idea that someone is comfortable going forward with this experience and letting it all hang out is binary. So let's say the shared suffering equation is, or the shared suffering part of the equation. I have to keep in mind, a lot of you guys are just listening to this, you're not watching the videos. The shared suffering part of the equation, let's say that's on a scale of 0 to 100, right? So 0 being you didn't really feel like you did anything, and 100 is like you're gassed, you let it all hang out, like you've got that exhilarated sort of post-workout feeling, you got crushed, hopefully in a good way. Let's look at the equation. So we have comfort, and it's binary. It's either basically a +1 or a -1. If someone feels comfortable doing that, If someone has a level of comfort that they feel fine letting it all hang out, getting their ass kicked, etc., then it's a giant positive, right? So if they feel welcome, supported, that it's a safe space to do that they're not going to be judged, so on and so forth, then it's a giant positive, right? It throws their overall score into the stratosphere. But if they are not comfortable, okay, there's a reason this comes first in the equation. If they are not comfortable, it's an incredibly negative experience. It's like the bad dream of being naked in front of, your high school cafeteria or something, right? Or in front of your coworkers or whatever it is. Like, it is not a positive experience. People feel scared. They're going to leave. They're going to feel judged, like all these different things. And the interesting piece is that if you think about CrossFit being an inherently like intimidating thing, if you think about jiu-jitsu being an inherently intimidating thing, we have to work to create that comfort. Because if we're not, if we're, let's say, under 90% comfort level, they're not going to let it all hang out. They're not going to get to the point where it's, wow, let's do that shit again, where they rinse, repeat. If we do create that comfort, then they'll feel safe. They have to actually be safe, right? To actually make them feel that way. And we have a chance to get them to do the, wow, let's do that shit again, where you can get into like other cult stuff where it's, do they have their own language? They have their own rituals, right? So language, like, oh, what's your Fran time, right? Language, what the hell is like, I don't know, if you have somebody in your guard, right? Passing guard. I don't know them all yet. I'm not there yet, but I am in the exhilarated phase, like, wow, let's do that again. Uniforms, right? So you wear the gyms, Gracie Barra has their gis. Maybe your gym has your shirts, your wristbands, different things. Community, right? So you become entwined in that community. An interesting thing. So we used to have this happen all the time at our gym in Minnesota, where it was, and I haven't been back there in like 3 years. I still own them, which is cool, I guess. I miss the people, because we would have to literally kick people out. We'd have to get them to get the hell out of Dodge so that we could either go to bed or go run errands or whatever it might be. So it was a very interesting thing to have to deal with. But I noticed the same thing at the jiu-jitsu gym. So I was going to lunch with my wife after session last Thursday. So I go to get ready, get showered up, all those different things. So I'm in there, whatever it is, 10, 15 minutes. And by the time I'm leaving, everyone that was in that class was still sitting around talking to each other. So there's still like that community aspect. And when you can do all those things, that's when your business can start being accused of being a cult. That's when your business becomes something that you just can't help but talk about. So like, if I had, like, I'm like a total like a loner up here, to be honest, but this is where, like, even I was talking to my wife about it, and she might want to do it, and she's not, like, she was like, you think I'm a nerd? She was a bigger nerd than me. I love her to death, but she's a bigger nerd than me. But like, if I had friends and my brother lived up here, so on and so on, I'd be like, dude, let's go get crushed at this jiu-jitsu gym. So that's where you start to get that viral word of mouth side. So take this equation, right? So essentially, like, level one, your permission to play, your permission to have somebody start to experience something that has the chance of being cultish, of being addicting, really, to them, is they have to be comfortable. So how can you facilitate that comfort, not just with your coaches, because it wasn't just I can barely understand most of what the coach at that particular session says. Like, English is obviously not his first language. He's a very nice guy. I'm starting to understand him better. But it was the other people in the community that like talked me through different things and so on and so forth. So everyone there was super welcoming. So how can we facilitate that culture in your gym where it's everyone, it is a nervous thing. How can we make sure everyone feels welcome every time, so that they have permission to experience everything that your gym has to offer and get appropriately smoked? Because that's the other thing that I didn't mention, is they didn't just like throw me in with a black belt and have me get just completely destroyed. Like, they're easing me into things and giving me an appropriate level of basically smashed for where I'm at. Once that happens, and they get that exhilarating experience, the shared suffering, that real experience of community, now it's like, oh shit, like, let's do this again and again and again. And they start to get indoctrinated into maybe your language. You call things certain things. So We used to have really funny names for different exercises and things like that, names for workouts, your rituals, your uniforms, your community, and that is when you become a cult and can generate ridiculous word of mouth. So that's all I've got for today. I hope that was interesting and helpful. If it was, shoot me a message, shoot me an email or something, shoot me a message, a comment, a review, let me know. If you're picking up what we're putting down and you'd like to see how we can work with you one-on-one, head over to myfriendsasyoughrowgyms.com, www.myfriendsasyoughrowgyms.com, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Love, hugs, all that stuff. We'll talk soon.